A solar fuels generation research program is focused on hydrogen production by means of reactive metal water splitting in a cyclic iron-based redox process. Iron-based oxides are explored as an intermediary reactive material to dissociate water molecules at significantly reduced thermal energies. Don't miss the beginning of the lecture since it is very often most valuable part, for instance, because it refused previous lectures or outlines objects and lecture structure if you easily get distracted by other students' seat near the front. Relish the fall colors while you can. Scientists think that the rich reds, oranges, and yellows of fall may be one of the many casualties of global warming. Leaves change color in part because of cues taken from dropping temperatures. As temperatures remain warmer through fall and winter nights, they could delay the beloved fall color shift. Archaeologists have reconstructed methods of timekeeping that go back to prehistoric times at least as old as the Neolithic. The natural units for timekeeping used by most historical societies are the day and the solar year. Calendars are explicit schemes used for timekeeping. The first historically attested calendars date to the Bronze Age, dependent on the development of writing in the ancient Near East. Advanced Robotics is the international journal of the Robotics Society of Japan and has a history of more than 33 years. It is an interdisciplinary journal which integrates publication of all aspects of research on robotic science and technology. Advanced Robotics publishes original research papers and survey papers from all over the world. Neuroscience has traditionally been classed as a subdivision of biology. Many researchers say that neuroscience means the same as neurobiology. However, neurobiology looks at the biology of the nervous system, while neuroscience refers to anything to do with the nervous system. Neuroscientists are involved in a much wider scope of fields, who study the evolutionary and medical aspects of the nervous system. Take a Break is a program that encourages teens who have signed up for it to log off after they have been on the platform for a certain amount of time. Starting Tuesday, the feature is available to any users between the ages of 13 and 18 based on how they self-reported when they signed up for Instagram. In the Science Mission Directorate, the Astrophysics Division studies the universe. The science goals of this division are breathtaking. We seek to understand the universe and our place in it. We are starting to investigate the very moment of creation of the universe and are close to learning the full history of stars and galaxies. We are discovering how planetary systems form and how environments develop. There are many benefits to bilingualism and exposure to multiple languages. Children who learn multiple languages learn to be sensitive to their conversation partners, they make word and language choices based on their knowledge of others. These are sophisticated social decisions that show advanced social skills. After the coldest night in South Florida in a decade, lizards were dropping out of palm trees, landing legs up. The scientists who raced to investigate the fallen reptiles have now found that, despite such graceless falls, some of these tropical, cold-blooded creatures are actually more resilient to cold than previously thought. The amount of sunlight that Earth reflects back into space has decreased measurably in recent years. Whether the decline in Earthshine is a short-term blip or yet another ominous sign for Earth's climate is up in the air, scientists suggest. A new study found that while a beauty premium exists across professions, it's partially because attractive people develop distinct traits as a result of how the world responds to their attractiveness. They build a greater sense of power and have more opportunities to improve nonverbal communication skills throughout their lives. Extroverts tend to move quickly and try to influence situations directly, while introverts give themselves time to develop their insights before exposing them to the world. Extroverts are happy making decisions in the thick of events, while introverts want to reflect before taking actions. Most of us spend on average 1,800 hours per year in our jobs, and will work for about 40 years before retirement. When you consider the amount of time spent in the office, you soon realize how important it is to feel a sense of achievement at the end of the day, rather than just meeting financial objectives. Calcium plays an extremely important role in the production of plant tissues and enables plants to grow better. It is responsible for keeping the cell walls of plants together. It is also crucial in activating signals that coordinate certain cellular activities. Calcium also increases the resistance to external attacks and increases the feed value of forage crops to livestock. Optogenetics is a research tool in neuroscience that uses light to alter the activity of genetically engineered light, sensitive nerve cells to better understand the function and behavior of clusters of neurons in animals. Now, a team led by researchers from the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology has developed an implantable optogenetic light emitting device that can be wirelessly recharged. A meteorite that fell on Earth more than a century ago may contain some of the first concrete evidence for a cosmic mash up in the early solar system. Following the birth of our Sun 4.5 billion years ago, it is thought that Jupiter's formation caused two reservoirs of asteroids to gather in the solar system, one inside the giant planet's orbit and one outside. Some of the pain patients may become hooked. Or their meds may find their way to friends or relatives who take them recreationally. Or a prescription opioid user may transition to heroin. Heroin is just another opioid drug, so the brain doesn't distinguish whether it comes from a pharmacy or from a street drug dealer. Domestic violence increased during lockdown in the United States. A new study, published in Psychology of Violence, looks at rates of intimate partner violence during the pandemic in the United States. Like data from the UK, it suggests that domestic violence increased during the lockdown. Although it is difficult to take people back to the moon, it is not impossible. We can transport people, but the logistical challenge of keeping them there is a very different thing. However, we have two of the components necessary to make this work: power from the sun and the minerals on the moon itself. Scientists and researchers are already busy working on this in laboratories. If a doctor expects a treatment to be successful, a patient may experience less pain and better outcomes, according to a new study. The findings reveal how social interactions between hypothetical healthcare providers and patients have the power to influence how patients perceive the effectiveness of a treatment, even when it is a placebo. In Abu Dhabi, where freshwater sources are very limited, sustainable water management is a high priority. The region receives on average just 120 millimeters of rainfall every year, but the country is seeing demand for water increase by almost 40% annually. In this situation, it is clear that Abu Dhabi needs to boost the efficiency of water use by increasing water recycling. Sir Charles Spencer Chaplin was an English comic actor, filmmaker, and composer who rose to fame in the era of silent film. He became a worldwide icon through his screen persona, the Tramp, and is considered one of the most important figures in the history of the film industry. His career spanned more than 75 years, from childhood in the Victorian era until a year before his death in 1977, and encompassed both adulation and controversy. The Southerners did not accept Lincoln as a president because of certain reasons, based on historical grounds. Southerners wished to protect their rights in the government and become more independent from the North. They considered presidential elections to be unfair. Moreover, they thought that their own rights will be ignored and limited. All this caused the separation of the Southern states and marked the beginning of the Civil War. Early in the 19th century, Wordsworth opposed the coming of the steam train to the Lake District, saying it would destroy its natural character. Meanwhile, Blake denounced the dark satanic mills of the Industrial Revolution. The conservation of the natural environment, however, did not become a major theme in politics until quite recently. In probability sampling, each member of the group is selected at regular intervals to be a part of the sample. Systematic sampling is the implementation of probability sampling. In systematic sampling, researchers use statistical methods to choose the desired population on whom they want to research. The sampling interval can be calculated by division of the entire population by the required sample size. Demand for natural gas has grown internationally in recent years, in part because it has a smaller carbon footprint than coal and other fossil fuels. In Singapore, where the government has promoted increased use of natural gas, consumption has grown about ninefold in recent decades. In some places, natural gas consumption has expanded as public opinion has turned against nuclear power. Whether salamander, frog, or toad, amphibians are some of the most diverse and far-flung animals on the planet. However, they're disappearing, and experts are worried since frogs are considered bellwethers for the environment. Their double life makes them unique. It's through their skin that they breathe and drink water because their skin is so permeable. Behavioral and social sciences research helps predict, prevent, and manage illness in individuals and in whole populations. This research also helps people change their behaviors, understand treatments, and learn how to stick with them. Society's role is significant, too. Access to health care affects decision making and behavior. Researchers have discovered a new superhighway network to travel through the solar system much faster than was previously possible. Such routes can drive comets and asteroids near Jupiter to Neptune's distance in under a decade and to 100 astronomical units in less than a century. They could be used to send spacecraft to the far reaches of our planetary system relatively fast, and to monitor and understand near-Earth objects that might collide with our planet.